My name is Crystal. I am here to talk to you about practicality. Practical living, and we're going to discuss a variety of different topics. Today is my first episode, actually, and I'm so excited. And I have Anita Abdul Kareem here with me, and we're going to be talking about health on a budget. And so I think there's a misconception out there that if you want to be healthy, it's very expensive and it's unattainable. But I'm here to kind of challenge that idea. We're going to just dive into it. Anita, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your first show.
You are a registered dietitian. You have your master's in nutrition. You have a lot of knowledge and experience in education. You've written a book. And I think one of the main focuses that you are passionate about is intuitive eating. Yes. So I think we'll touch base on a couple of those things. But I wanted to talk about what is a healthy meal, what is a balanced meal, and then we'll dive into what it takes to attain that.
Right.
And if we can do it on a budget.
Absolutely. Yeah. So first things first, what I like to typically share when people usually ask me, what's the secret?
Right.
I usually, if there is a secret, which by the way, there is no secret, but if there was one, it would be the following equation. So this is probably the simplest it's going to get. And it's pretty simple. And if you apply this, it might be even hard to believe of how simple it is.
Okay.
Right? So there are 3 macronutrients, only 3: carbohydrates, fats, and proteins.
Okay. So carbohydrates are what?
Carbohydrates are foods that we get most of our energy from. They break down the fastest, and that's usually what our brain uses for fuel, what our muscles use for fuel, and when you run, that's what your muscles uses for fuel.
Okay.
So carbohydrate foods are things like bread, rice, potatoes, grains, fruits. Some milk is also considered carbohydrates. We have a lot of crossover foods too, which are both maybe a carb and a protein, or protein and fat, which we'll discuss later. But so those are typically the carbs. And believe it or not, non-starchy vegetables fall under the carbohydrate category.
And what is an example of that?
Broccoli. Broccoli is considered a non-starchy vegetable, but that's something that I will kind of clarify in a little bit. But all those foods are considered carbohydrates. Okay. So that's why it's a little tricky when people kind of enter into a diet that is eliminating all carbohydrates. You're pretty much eliminating most foods.
I know you're taking a jab at me. I am on the keto diet right now, but
no jabs here. No. We'll talk about that later. And we'll talk about trendy diets in a little bit. So just for the purpose of carbohydrates, those are carbohydrate foods.
Okay. By the way, I do eat broccoli.
Good.
Thank you.
So I think that's just too technical.
I know. I'm
it's
just
a little
kidding.
too technical. My description of all that, just because I feel like people want a place for like non-starchy vegetables, and it falls under carbohydrates.
Okay.
So protein foods are foods that are meant to rebuild, right? Give us our muscle integrity, things that are meant to rebuild. And protein is also the second source of energy. So when your body has run out of carbohydrates, it will go to protein.
Okay.
And protein foods are things like steak, chicken, eggs, nuts, sometimes beans.
Okay.
Cheese.
So for a vegetarian, what are the protein options?
Tofu, nuts, Greek yogurt, beans, lentils, nuts. Did I already say nuts? Nuts. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then
there's fats. Fats are a very special food to me, because I love fats. But fats are pretty much what keeps our skin shining. They kind of hold everything together, right? They give us like that elasticity within our body,
right?
And they also help us to stay fuller longer.
So fats are not bad.
Fats are definitely not bad.
Tell us what a balanced plate looks like.
Absolutely. So this is where it gets simple, right? And it's a simple equation. Half of the volume of your meal, have it come from non-starchy fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
What are non-starchy fruits and vegetables? Kale, Swiss chard, broccoli, carrots, radishes. What are some of your favorite vegetables?
I do like broccoli. I do like cauliflower. I
spinach.
do love butter lettuce.
Okay. Bougie. No, I'm just kidding. So have a ball. have a ball. Half of the volume of half of your meal comes from the non-starchy vegetables.
Okay.
And then on the other side, another fourth of your meal, we want that to come from protein, things like eggs or, chicken, salmon, tofu. And the other 1/4, we want that to come from starchy vegetables or complex carbohydrates like grains, potatoes, peas, corn.
So French fries?
Oh my, okay, but which, by the way, there's room for French fries in every plate. just putting that out there. You can definitely bake French fries, and it'll definitely be a healthier option for the starchy carbohydrates. But yes, they do fall into that category, and some a little bit of the fat.
You're talking about fiber. What are some examples of foods that have a naturally high fiber content?
Absolutely. So we're looking at things like broccoli, of course, carrots, the basics. Swiss chard, if you want to get a little bit more exotic, kale, even things like brown rice. I mean, that fit the rices and the grains fit more into the starchy carbohydrate parts, but those also still have fiber. I would probably focus more on the starchy vegetables because it's a shorter list than the non-starchy vegetables. So the starchy vegetables are potatoes, corn, and peas.
Okay.
For the most part.
Sweet potato?
Sweet and regular spud potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the starchy vegetables. So pretty much have a ball on any vegetable that you want on the non-starchy side. Okay,
so just to recap what we are talking about, half of your plate should be vegetables and fruits.
Right.
A quarter should be a protein.
Right.
And an example of a protein would be
fish, chicken, even some beans if you're a vegan, vegetarian, eggs.
Okay. And then the other quarter is going to be starchy vegetables.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so when you have a balanced meal like that, I'm assuming that this is going to keep you full longer, and you're going to be satisfied. You're not going to be craving like maybe the quote unquote unhealthy foods.
Other things, right?
Other things.
Exactly, right? Sorry. So the purpose of this equation is to keep you satisfied for a long period of time, right? I think a lot of the times people always say to me, I eat this and I'm still hungry, or, I randomly get starved out of nowhere. It's just that people are trying to understand their body. So the reason why we want high fiber foods is because fiber takes up a lot of space and it does not have a lot of calories. So we want to go, when you think about kind of the hierarchy of foods, you want to go with foods that have the most nutrients possible with the kind of least amount of calories, right?
So that would be like broccoli.
Exactly. So many nutrients, takes up so much space, and pretty good on the calorie scale. Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about something that I think people are so afraid to eat, which is healthy fats.
Yes.
So everybody, once you say fat, it's like, oh my goodness, like don't even eat it. It's unhealthy. But that's not true, right? So coconut oil, avocado, olive oil. Can you talk a little bit about the healthy fats?
Absolutely. So I'm so happy that you brought that up. One thing before I get into fats is kind of like, when we talk about dieting, when we talk about things like this, we kind of want to be aware of the trends, right? So by what's kind of a good trend and what's a not so good trend. For example, kale, great trend, right? Great trend, probably not going to go away. And which by any means, any diet that comes to that like is trending at the time will probably help you lose weight. But my only thing is, when someone does decide to go on a diet in which a whole food group is eliminated, we want to make sure that we have a plan, an exit strategy after that. So that's the only thing. So when we talk about fats, 20 years ago, we were told not to eat any fats, right? It was always no fat, low fat. But now we have things like keto, which a lot of people love, and it's only fats, essentially, right? So moving into healthy fats, which are more so plant-based fats. So plant-based fats have what we call monounsaturated fats.
Okay.
And monounsaturated fats are proven to actually reverse like heart problems. And they're meant to be really, really good for your heart, where typically, if you're just reading headlines, if you're not really into the sciences, you're probably aware of the fact that animal fats or some sort of fat affects your heart, right? But these fats like avocados, almonds, walnuts, those are all the healthy fats that we want to incorporate in a healthy way into our diet. What I like to recommend is when it comes to fats, we want to sprinkle that on top.
Okay.
Right? So we want to sprinkle fats on top of the meal. So let's just say you're building a salad, an entree salad. And you have your non-starchy vegetables at the bottom, which is going to take up most of the volume of your food. And then you might have like a piece of toast on the side, or maybe a side of beans, or beans in your salad. And then you have your protein on top, whether it be like chicken or maybe some tofu, maybe some nuts. And then you usually drizzle or you sprinkle dressing on top, right? Or you top it off with avocado. So that's typically what it looks like.
Okay. So, I mean, that sounds pretty easy and attainable.
Yeah. Right. And so I think what people so this is where the intuitive eating comes in, right? Because sometimes people, they don't trust themselves. They're like, no, it must be more complicated than that. It's really not.
Well, let me just stop you right there and do a little plug for you.
Okay.
Anita Abdul Karim did write a book.
I did.
And it has the best title I've ever heard. It's called Bad Bitches Don't Diet. And it's an easy read. And it's also has some like journaling in there, right? Just kind of getting in touch with like how you're feeling, your relationship with food, how other people maybe make you feel about food and your body. But it's really a book about kind of releasing you from the
diet mentality.
Yeah, the diet mentality. And just more like getting in tune with your body, listening to what your body needs and wants and craves. And, just not feeling guilty. It's removing that guilt.
Absolutely. It sounds like you read the book.
I did read the book. Thank you. Bad Bitches Don't Diet. You can get it on Amazon, a copy, or you can actually download it on your Kindle. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a great book. And I completely recommend it. Can you just go over quickly about the importance of organic food versus non-organic food and how important that is? Or maybe there's some misconceptions about it. A lot of people want to buy only organic and that's so expensive. Is it okay to eat non-organic broccoli?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And it's a very hot topic and it's a very controversial topic.
Right.
It's a little tricky because organic, if you have the means to go organic, honestly, I'm just going to say it off the bat. If you have the means to go organic, why not? But there are some foods that are probably worth more your money to go organic. So typically fruits and vegetables that don't have a shell also, but that don't have a skin. Those are, essentially fruits and vegetables that you typically just wash and eat whole. Those are usually the foods that, if you were to buy organic, are probably the priority if you want it. So like apples, berries, what else doesn't have that you just kind of dig into?
Pears. But a banana, for example, you don't have to buy it organic because it has that peel.
Right. It's less preferable. It doesn't need to be organic, right? And like pineapple, you don't need it to be organic. Even avocado, they don't have to be organic, right? Because you peel off that, that layer. Right. So it kind of just depends. And there is a lot of research on people who have come out of chemotherapy and cancer patients when it comes to organic. That is also a little controversial. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable enough getting into that so dramatically, but if you do have the means, if you are like a cancer patient or somebody that is coming off chemo, if you have the means to go organic, I highly recommend that you try and doing that. But at the end of the day, non-organic produce still has a lot of nutrients and fiber. So by all means, go for the non-organic if you don't have the means to go for organic.
Right. I think a lot of people don't realize maybe how much they're spending on food when they go out to eat, or how much they're spending, going to the grocery store, and they don't really have a budget in place. To be honest, I don't have a budget in place either. But I think knowing where your money is going is very important.
Absolutely.
And these small changes can, maybe save you money. You can be just more proactive on picking better foods at the grocery store, maybe picking even better meals when you go out to eat. And so there's a lot of things that you can maybe put a little bit of time into, in the beginning, and then it kind of just
falls into place.
Right. So the question is, Can we eat healthy?
Will we be poor if we eat healthy?
Without breaking the bank?
Will we be poor and healthy? Would we rather be poor or healthy? We can have both. And the reality of the matter is, if you put some energy into it, you can be rich and healthy. But no, so it just so happens that everything that I just talked about is probably the cheapest thing at the grocery store, right? So if you think about what I just described with the equation, with the vegetables and and the grains and the proteins, those are all in the produce section, right? We're mostly in the produce section. Maybe we'll go back and buy some meats, and we'll probably pick up some grains, right? So if you think about long-term planning, like it takes a little planning, right, to to figure all that out, right? You're going to spend a little more at the grocery store for a longer period of time versus going out to eat for that one time and spending a certain amount of money, right? So before I even get started with all that, like it does kind of take a little bit of a shift of perspective. Right. So it might feel a little overwhelming, but I think the whole purpose of this is just to have people start thinking about what it's like, or where your, like you said, like where your money is actually going.
Right.
So okay, let me get back to processed foods versus non-processed foods. And this is kind of like where it will make sense. Okay. So getting back to the original form of the food, right? Which is kind of what I talked about, like, making those salads, starting from scratch cooking is going to be the healthiest possible food that you have, like the original form of the food, right? Even if you start chopping something that's processed, right? So when you go to the grocery store and you see like a bag of chopped broccoli, it's a little bit more expensive than the head of broccoli, right? Its hands have touched it. Something has happened to it. It's been processed.
Okay. So processed foods, like that's even crazy. Like, I don't think, I even knew that.
People, yeah.
Like, just if you chop a broccoli, that's considered processed.
Yeah, it's a process.
That's crazy.
Right.
Like, you don't think that.
Right. Which is typically associated with a higher price tag.
Right.
So
you're telling me that I can buy a whole broccoli ahead and then just cut it at home for a lot cheaper than buying a bag of broccolites or whatever.
Right. Which is like not the big issue here. Like if you find that extra 25 cents, is going to make you eat that broccoli out of the bag, by all means, right. But what I'm referring to more so is the highly processed foods. So the more processing that a food has, the more expensive it is, right? The more it deviates from its original form, the more expensive it's going to be.
And are we talking about healthy foods that are processed, or other processed foods? Because a bag of chips is very cheap, right?
Right. That does make a lot of sense.
So we're talking about healthy foods that have been processed.
Sure. Yes, we can definitely talk about healthy foods that have been processed. But when we're this is kind of like, I think, where we have to merge some of the data, right? Because are we looking at nutrient content? Nutrient content, a bag of chips is probably the least nutrients you're ever going to find anywhere, right? So you're spending...
That's a dagger to my heart.
Yeah. So
that's like the worst news that I've received.
Yeah. So it's... sorry. We're here to speak the truth. So if we're talking nutrient quality, nutrient content, the amount of nutrients that you actually extract from a food, a bag of chips is like one of the lowest on the list, right? So even if you're spending $1.50 or $1.25, you're not getting much like nutrients. Yes, of course, you're still going to be hungry. Like if honestly, anyone, like if you are hungry and you go for a bag of chips, will you stay hungry or will you be full? Most of the time, the answer is you're probably going to be hungry still, right? So kind of, moving back into the healthier options, right? Into the healthier options. It just so happens, like I said, that those healthier options, which is the topic of this conversation, is that those healthier options, the closer you get to the content of the food or the original form of the food, the cheaper it's going to be. And I think also, well, correct me if I'm wrong, what you were trying to get into is those foods that are pre-prepared for you that are marketed as being healthy. And that's where I think a lot of people have the misconception that food, like eating healthy, is expensive. You go to the grocery store, it says healthy on, the branding of it says healthy, or it says low this or low that. And that marketing is also typically associated with a higher price tag, with the higher cost, right? Because they're trying to drag you in with that,
right?
So it's kind of being aware of those little things,
right? Well, I go to the 99-cent store,
Yes.
And I'm not ashamed to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they have so many different options of vegetables and fruits and potatoes. They have broccoli, they have cauliflower, they even have cactus, ready to go.